Hey guys, how are you? Hi Bryn, hey Irvin, hey Spooky, hi Hemi, hi Nikki X, hi Tim, how are you guys? Hi Sugar Beet. Hello, welcome everybody. I'm so excited. I have been waiting to do this series from literally the very first live on my channel, and it's sad that it's taken a year to get here. Hi Michelle. I'm really sad that it took me a year to get here, but originally I kept pushing it off because when I get overwhelmed with something, I push it off, and I always wanted to do this series right. And then I was supposed to be doing it with a couple of other people at the time. So we did a bunch of research. We had the whole group open, but then those people kind of drifted off of YouTube and are no longer here. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it myself. So one thing, okay, anybody who knows me, okay, I love true crime, but I love a particular kind of true crime. And that true crime is the bizarre and unsolved true crime. The true crime that makes no logical sense. And if you guys follow me, you know that's my thing, right? The things that we have no answers for. That is Missing 411, David Paulides. I have always been so intrigued by it because it's a mix between the paranormal, potential aliens, something that goes beyond what logic tells us. So today is episode 1 of the Missing 411 series. It's going to be similar to kind of how my 9/11 series is. I am going to this live, I'm going to just basically do like an overall discussion for anyone who isn't familiar with what the Missing 411 is. And then moving forward with each episode, I'm going to find the most bizarre and interesting cases. And we'll make like an episode of each case. Maybe one episode is 2 cases, depending on how in-depth the cases are. It is so interesting, and I'm so excited. And something else that's on the docket, I'm really excited. I was talking to Amanda, and me and her are going to be doing, I know, prepare yourself, a flesh-eating Friday live. What's that, you ask? Well, we're going to be covering cases where people have eaten others' flesh. Awesome, right? So anybody who doesn't know about the Florida man who his face was literally eaten off by another man, or Dustin Harroff, that case of the young boy who was on the Dr. Phil show who had something bizarre. We don't know what happened to this kid, but he left dinner early with his parents, went walking throughout the town. This couple was sitting in their garage with the garage open, watching TV. He came in, killed them, but when the officers got there, he was over one of the male's body and he was eating his face. When he was brought into the hospital, he had flesh in his mouth, okay? And he also drank bleach and stuff. And the question has always been, what fucking happened to this kid? This normal seeming kid. You see him before, you see him talking after in the Dr. Phil episodes, and it's what fucking happened to him that made you have a psychotic break that you literally are eating a person's face. So, yes, we're going to be doing a flesh-eating Friday. I don't know if it's going to be like one episode alone. Well, that's it. Bath salts came into play, but it was not in his system. So I'm really excited to start that. I don't know if it's going to be like just a one episode type of thing or a couple episodes. It depends on how many cases we get where people eat flesh. It sounds so fucked up, and it is fucked up, but that's right up my alley. So anybody who is interested in that, I'm not sure what Friday exactly because I am leaving next Saturday to go to Disney. So it'll probably be a couple of weeks away, and it has to be a Friday because it's called Flesh Eating Friday. We can't do like Flesh Eating Tuesday, you know what I mean? So it has to land on a Friday just because it has a ring to it. So I'm really excited for that. I've never done a live with Amanda before or been on a panel with her, so it's exciting. Flesh Eating Friday. Okay. Moving on. So today is, Irvin, but they were able to take him into the hospital. When the officers got there, it took so much strength to get this guy off of his face. It doesn't matter. They were tasing him. They were doing they had to shoot him because he would not stop eating the man's face. It was crazy. All right. So my point is he was taken into the hospital very quickly. So we are starting with the missing 411, David Paulides. If anybody isn't familiar with the missing 411, basically it is David Paulides who sheds light on the huge amount of disappearances and vanishings in national parks and forests. Okay, let me give you a little bit about who David Paulides is. So David Paulides is a former police officer who is now an investigator and writer known primarily for his self-published books dedicated to proving the reality of Bigfoot and other paranormal things and establishing the missing 411 conspiracy. Now, this isn't just people go missing in national parks and forests. This is people and children are going missing under the most bizarre circumstances you can imagine. Most are never seen again. Some do appear again. And what they recall, if they recall anything at all, is not human-like. It is terrifying. So we're just going to go through some cases today, not really getting too deep into anything, just so you guys have an idea of what it's about. So a couple of examples of these missing people or children is, it'll be like a family who is walking in the forest, in the park, national park, miles and miles of park, and they will have their 2-year-old or 3-year-old child right behind them. Right? They're walking along this trail. They see their child 1 second, and in the next moment they look back, that child is gone. Gone. Out of sight in a split second. They will search and search and search. They will call in the authorities. Search parties will come in. How far can this 2 to 3-year-old child get, right? And they will search day and night. Nothing. No evidence of animals, right? Getting the child. You would see evidence of that. A lot of times the same areas will be searched 5 times. And in the 5th time searching the area, that child is now found miles and miles away from the original spot that he went missing, on top of like a mountain with insane difficult terrain. Meaning the amount of distance this 3-year-old child had traveled in the short amount of time in the conditions and the terrain is impossible for even the most experienced hiker. Yes, I have, Bodie Blue. We went through those on a Mystery Monday. A lot of the times, the child will be found with no shoes. yet the bottom of their feet are spotless. If you are to believe that that child was able to go that distance, climb those altitudes, those terrains at 3, you would expect the bottom of his feet to be bloody and torn up, yet it's spotless. And again, they checked this exact area 4 other times, but now on the 5th time, here he lies. How the fuck did that child get there? Those are the types of cases we're talking about. A lot of the times they're not found. But like I said, the times that they are found, it's not logical. It is not plausible circumstances. Sorry, Irvin, I yell when I get excited. Okay. One of the more widely known cases is Deorr Kunz. Have you guys heard of Deorr Kunz? So Deorr Kunz, let me get you guys up. Maybe you'll know his face, which, to be honest, it's not one of my biggest missing 411 cases. I have some feelings about it. I'm not going to lie. But this is baby Deorr. And he's a very popular case as far as the missing 411. Baby Deorr was 2 years old. A woman calls emergency services to inform that her 2-year-old son, Deorr Kunz, is missing from the Timber Creek campground 10 miles west of Legg, Idaho. When children go missing, families spend months, years, and even decades trying to discover what happened to their lost loved one. But getting a conclusion and some sort of resolution is never simple, especially when there is insufficient evidence. And one of the most unfortunate and strange disappearances is Deorr Kunz Jr., who has now been missing for 7 years. In the years since, repeated efforts of deceit have applied the parents as suspects by police and their former private investigator. However, minimal evidence has been found, and neither parent has admitted to the crime. As time passes, the family continues to distance themselves from the community they once considered so highly, leaving everyone questioning, where is Deorr Kunz Jr.? It is a mystery that has perplexed investigators and left family and friends sorrowful. 2-year-old Deorr Kunz Jr. from Idaho Falls disappeared on July 10th, 2015, while touring Timber Creek Campground, 10 miles from Legg, with his parents, Jessica Mitchell and Vernal Deorr Kunz Sr. Deorr's great-grandfather, Robert, and Isaac Reinfeld, a friend of Walton's, was also on tour. The group was on a family fishing trip when Deorr disappeared around 2:40 p.m. On that day, Mitchell and Vernal chose to take them camping, and the fishing trip was immediate and unexpected, according to other family members. It was to become a destructive decision to head out into the forest. Jessica and Vernal told authorities they assumed their son's great-grandfather was attending him at the Timber Creek campground, while his great-grandfather thought the boy was down by the creek with his parents. Deorr was wearing a camouflage jacket and blue pajama pants at the time he disappeared. The parents' separate 911 calls, police interviews, and other proof triggered an investigation that left more mysteries than answers. Since that day, there has been no sign of Deorr, and nobody has been charged in connection with his disappearance. Mitchell and Kunz Sr. were named suspects in 2016 by former Lemhi County Sheriff Lynn Bowerman, but they were never arrested nor charged. There was little or no evidence that they had committed any crime. The parents have claimed from the start that they do not know what occurred to their son. Reinwin and Walton also said they had no sense of where the boy was when interviewed by police. Walton died in June of 2019. Publicly, the case has been comparatively quiet in recent months, apart from continued trial between the family and a private investigator. After months of testing at the FBI office in Quantico, Virginia, investigators announced a bone found at the campsite in 2019 was from an animal and not tied to the missing boy. The case is still open and active today. So what had happened was the mom and dad of baby Deorr, the grandfather, and a weird family friend What is wrong with you people? Hold on. Sorry, guys, 1 second. Okay. So basically, what has happened, and yeah, you guys could boot it now. I just had to grab the link. So what had happened was baby Deorr was with his mom and dad, his grandpa, and a weird family friend. Let me just put it that way. And they went to this campground area. No, you're good, Michelle. You went to this campground area, and the grandfather stayed at the camper, and the rest of them were walking down to the creek to go fishing. When they started walking down, baby Deorr said he wanted to go back with grandpa. The parents said that the grandfather was still close enough to see them. And they said, okay, go back. And so he left to go with the grandfather. They went down and gone fishing. And then when they had come back, they realized Deorr was not there. Hi, T. Adams. I saw it was fucking wild today. Yeah, it was crazy. We're sticking with content today. But so when they went back, they realized Deorr never made it back to his grandfather. So keep that in mind, guys. They claimed they were going down to that river, but they were still close enough to grandpa to see him, to have eyes on him. And baby Deorr turned around and went back towards his grandfather. But baby Deorr never made it there. To this day, baby Deorr has never been found. Not a clue, not anything. No fragments, no clothes, no shoes, nothing. There were so many search parties for this baby. If it was an animal that took it, no Pemmy, grandpa never saw him. When they were going to that fishing, when they were on their way, baby Deorr turned back and went back to grandpa. So between the time that he left his parents to walk back to grandpa, which again, close enough to see their eyes on grandpa, he vanished. He never made it back to grandpa. Hi, Wandering Sub. Hi to everyone first coming in. Hi, Ginger. Now, I'm going to admit that, like I said, this case, it is bizarre. It is strange. But there is something off with this family, and there is something off with that friend who was with them. And so I wouldn't deem it as bizarre as some of the other cases. Yes, the bad wolf. We're getting it. Yep, we're going to get right into that. Okay. So I'm going to give you a couple of cases. Again, I'm like not going to deep dive into any specific one. I'm going to give you a couple idea of some of these cases. So in the United States National Park System alone, there are more than 84 million acres of preserved woods, deserts, mountains, and other wilderness. So there is no surprise that in the past 100 years, there have been a number of cases of hikers going missing. Tattoos. Many of those who vanished were young children and inexperienced hikers, but some were healthy and seasoned outdoors people. But is there more to these disappearances than just kids wandering off or hikers becoming disoriented? What could cause someone to seemingly vanish into thin air? There are two approaches people take to explaining these mysterious disappearances: earthly and supernatural. Most hiking experts would say that these missing hikers made common mistakes, like taking on more than they could handle or failure to time their turn back to beat the sunset. However, some disappearances have become a focus for urban legend, online message boards, and nonfiction books. In fact, missing 411 author and former police officer at Yosemite National Park, David Paulides, thinks something more intriguing is afoot. His books examine more than 1,100 cases of people who mysteriously vanished in United States national parks. Here's the thing. The National Park Services doesn't collect data on how many visitors disappear within the vast expanses of these parks. Let me repeat that again. The National Park Service doesn't collect data on how many visitors disappear within the vast expanses of these parks. Indeed, most people turn up on their own accord a few days later. In 2020, Paulides estimated that there had been over 1,600 unexplained disappearances in North America. Let's be honest, although it might be fun to imagine monsters or something spookier, no proof for any supernatural disappearance has ever been provided. But there have definitely been some mysterious disappearances both in the United States and abroad in formal federal government-run national parks, as well as in related spaces like national forests, recreation areas, state parks, and more. Here are some of the most fascinating cases to date, starting in the early 20th century. You guys, they don't keep track of people who go missing in national parks. And I'll give you my theory on all this after, because I have a theory of why they don't. So there is Bessie and Glenn Hyde. Welcome, Annie. So happy to have you with us. Okay. Bessie and Glenn Hyde, 1928. Let me actually see. I know people need a visual. Hold on. What? Not Benny. Okay. Bessie and Glenn Hyde were honeymooning in northern Arizona at the Grand Canyon when they vanished. They were traveling down the Colorado River by scow in October of 1928, and planned to boat through the Grand Canyon. Oh, good night, Testicles. Thanks for coming. Bessie would have been the first woman ever to do so successfully. Glenn had run tough rivers before, but Bessie was a boating newbie. The couple ran across other boaters a few weeks before their disappearance, who said they got the feeling that Bessie wanted to turn back, but Glenn was pushing her on. If they completed the trip successfully, they could go on a paid lecture tour. So this trip was more than just fun. There was money at stake. Cut to several months later, the Hyde's boat was discovered that winter, seemingly undisturbed. It was upright and full of supplies, but the couple was gone. There are many theories about what happened to the Hydes. Did they disembark and try a too difficult side hike? Did they have an argument that turned violent? Or were they abducted? There are conflicting reports about what happened to the Hydes, and more than one Bessie Hyde sighting in the years that followed. So, their boat was found full of supplies, undamaged, but this couple never seen of again, never heard from again, no bones, no clothes, nothing. Then we have Alfred Beilhartz. Four-year-old Alfred Beilhartz was the first recorded drowning in Colorado's Rocky Mountain National Park, though whether Beilhartz actually drowned is controversial. He was camping in the park with his family over the July 4th weekend when he disappeared near the Roaring and Fall rivers. Beilhartz had gone with his dad to bathe in the river, and from there he decided to join two family friends at a spot about 500 feet upstream of where he and his father entered the river. When everyone returned to camp, they realized that Beilhartz was missing. A search began immediately, expanding to more than 100 civilian conservation corps members within 45 minutes. But there was barely any sign of Beilhartz anywhere. A day after he disappeared, a couple hiking about 6 miles away from Beilhartz's campsite reported seeing a boy who looked like Alfred sitting in an area called the Devil's Nest. By the time authorities arrived, though, the boy was gone. The search went on for 10 days and included 150 men plus bloodhounds, though the size of the search party had dwindled to a dozen by the end of the 8th day. Park rangers chalked his disappearance up to drowning. Yet they never found a body, ever. Okay. That's blurry, sorry, but that's the best I got. And yes, a lot of the Missing 411 movies are free on YouTube or Amazon Prime. You guys, they're great. So Catherine Van Alst, 1946. 8-year-old Catherine Van Alst disappeared from Devil's Den State Park near Arkansas's Ozark National Forest, where she and her family were camping. Van Alst apparently was playing with her brothers when she wandered off and got lost and couldn't find her way back. What makes her disappearance remarkable is that when she was found after 6 days wandering the woods, she was eerily calm. University of Arkansas student Porter Chadwick was part of the search party that found Van Alst. He told the Pittsburgh Press that when he found her, she walked stoically out of a cave and just said, "Here I am." She had survived on berries. Side note, remember that. Berries, okay? Remember that. She had survived on berries and spent nights sleeping in caves. Many other hikers have gotten lost in that part of the Ozarks and not been as lucky as Van Alst. So this little girl, 8 years old, survived on berries, sleeping in caves, 6 days. And then when they finally found her, she was just chill, said, "Here I am." Again, we'll talk about some of my theories after I get through like all of these. But you guys, there are some consistencies I want you to like listen out for. Okay. Then we have Paula Welden, 1946. There's an area in Green Mountain National Forest near Glastonbury Mountain and Vermont's Long Trail that believers in the paranormal call Bennington Triangle. The area got this name because of a handful of mysterious disappearances which occurred between 1945 and 1950. Although many more have been recorded over the years, paranormal author Joseph A. Citro coined the term because of the supposedly supernatural circumstances surrounding these vanishings. Paula Welden was the second person to go missing in that area of Green Mountain National Forest during this period. 18-year-old Welden was a college student who set out on the Long Trail in December 1946. She was dressed for walking and not a long hike, wearing jeans, a coat, and sneakers. Her attire implied that she planned to return before dark when temperatures were supposed to dip below freezing. Welden told her roommate that she was taking a long walk and she never returned. Several people spotted her as she hitchhiked her way to the trail and walked to the trailhead. When Welden didn't come back by dark, her roommate let the school know and the search began. Classes were suspended so students could help with the search. The process was disorganized at first until Welden's father called in favors from police in 2 surrounding states. Unfortunately, the search didn't pan out, and frustrated family and friends had their own theories about what happened to her. Did Welden run off with a boyfriend? Was she abducted? Did she commit suicide, or did she die of exposure because of her inappropriate attire? No one has discovered her body, so her disappearance remains a mystery. There's a rumor that this area of the Long Trail is home to a creature called the Bennington Monster. Could this Sasquatch-like animal have something to do with the disappearance? One positive outcome of the case was that the lack of organization in the search for Paula Welden led to the creation of the Vermont State Police which is responsible for all wilderness search and rescue missions in the state. Hi, Wolfie. Okay. Six-year-old Larry Jeffrey disappeared near the peak of 12,000-foot Mount Charleston in Humboldt-Toibi, sorry, can't pronounce that, National Forest, just a short drive from Las Vegas. The search began immediately after the boy wandered away from his brothers, and within days, the National Guard and a team of bloodhounds had joined the search. In a TV interview, David Paulides told reporter George Knapp that there were no predators afoot that day. And since the area they were in was pretty secluded, it's easy to rule out an abduction by car. This boy just walked into oblivion, Paulides said. When Jeffrey disappeared, he was wearing light clothing, and authorities were doubtful that he could survive the cold temperatures at night. Searchers found and lost the trail a few times, and they discovered evidence that the boy had been eating insects and foraged berries along the way. Overall, around 1,000 people searched for 16 days, but never found him. I was going to ask tattoos, is it near you? Yeah. Mama tried. Never climb the stairs. What did I say to you people? Don't, if you find stairs in the middle of the forest, don't you dare fucking climb them. Okay. Hi, Parker. You did so good on alleys. Okay. So this is Dennis Martin. 6-year-old Dennis Martin was on a camping trip near the Tennessee-North Carolina state line with his family in the summer of 1969. It was an annual Father's Day tradition. All of the men in the Martin family headed to the Smoky Mountain National Park to camp and hike. Dennis and his brothers had planned a prank on the adults. They were going to hide separately in the bush and jump out on different sides of the campsite to scare them. It was a typical joke that should have ended with some startled shouts and a lot of laughter. The laughter ended quickly, though, when they realized that Dennis was missing. Family, park rangers, and other hikers spread out to search for Dennis almost immediately, but he was nowhere to be found. That evening, there was a heavy rainfall, which is bad news when you're trying to track a missing little boy. The search for Martin became the largest in National Park Service history. One of the people searching was Park Ranger Dwight McCarter, who had successfully tracked down hundreds of missing persons, including young children. McCarter was a seasoned tracker, and he was struck by the complete lack of any sort of tracks. Dennis seemed to have disappeared completely, leaving no trace at all. His disappearance is still a mystery. One possible lead that searchers didn't follow was a report from another family the evening that the boy went missing. The Key family allegedly heard a scream and then saw a, I quote, bear man with something slung over its shoulder that looked like it could be a small child. We'll never know whether this was related to Martin's disappearance. But one thing did come out of it. The realization that having so many volunteers might have meant some vital clues got trampled on. Nowadays, searches involve less people, but they have more training. Okay. Then we have Douglas Legg, 1971. Douglas Legg and some of his family were heading out for a hike in the Adirondack Forest Preserve's Santanoni Preserve when his uncle spotted poison ivy and told Legg to put on long pants to protect himself. The family's cabin was a short, straight shot from where they were, but 8-year-old Legg never returned. Unlike a lot of the kids who have gone missing in national parks, Legg was very familiar with these woods. His family owned the cabin where they were staying and described Legg as a mini woodsman because they all hiked there together so often. Legg's disappearance sparked one of the Southern Adirondacks' largest search and rescue missions, with more than 600 people searching the woods. But like Martin, Legg left no trail. Unlike in the Martin case, though, rescuers used dogs in their search. Some accounts describe dogs following Legg's scent over a 30-mile trail through difficult terrain. How could a young child have traveled alone for such a distance? Some searchers reported seeing bear-like tracks near the site. While black bears do drag their prey to cover, dragging someone 30 miles over difficult terrain seems unusual. The family became desperate and began suspecting each other and even their friends of abducting Legg, but the police were certain that the mini woodsman had simply gotten lost. He was never found. And again, like, these are just very brief overviews of these stories, but come episode 2, I have a great killer fucking story for the first one, like an in-depth one. It's when I say like, oh, this person's never found, I want you to keep in mind how unusual it is to not find a single trace, to be with a child or a person one moment and in the next moment they're gone, and across miles with hundreds of people to not even find a single trace of them is highly unusual. Okay. $1997. According to Peninsula Daily News, Olympic National Park in northern Washington state has a feature that's not as majestic as its mountain views. At least 4 hikers have mysteriously disappeared from the area in the past 25 years, one of whom was 73-year-old John Devine. In 1997, Devine planned to hike into the park from Mount Baldy. The trail is a tough 24 miles, and though Devine was elderly, he was also an experienced long-distance hiker. Devine was camping with his friends Greg Balzer. They split up on the day that Devine went missing. Balzer went off to hunt while Devine took off on a day hike. Devine never returned. The fruitless search for Devine lasted a full week until a rescue helicopter crash killed 3 people and injured 5 others. By that time, weather conditions had deteriorated, making the chances of finding Devine slim. Friends and family said that Devine wouldn't want to put people in danger on his behalf, and the search was called off. The search helicopter's crash is as mysterious as Devine's disappearance. Before takeoff, the pilot used a hand signal indicating that he was going to wait 5 minutes for conditions to improve before attempting it. A moment later, the helicopter departed vertically without warning and crashed into the side of the mountain. Okay, 2004. At 8 a.m. on a July day in 2004, David Gonzalez asked his mother if he could have the car keys. There was a box of cookies in the car, and the 9-year-old wanted a treat. The car was only 50 yards away, and his mother watched him as he walked to the parking lot near their Big Bear Lake campsite in Northern California's San Bernardino National Forest. She turned her back for a second, and when she looked around again, Gonzalez was gone. His mother reported that she heard no sound at all when her back was turned, though she did see a beige truck speeding out of the campground around the time that her son went missing. Since there were no signs of abduction, authorities did not pursue that lead. The cookies that Gonzalez went to get were still in his family's locked van, so he never made it to the car. Rescue teams in San Bernardino County scoured the woods for Gonzalez. They found no signs of struggle or of the boy. The search went on for 9 days, but rescuers never found him alive. Almost a year later, hikers stumbled upon the boy's remains about a mile from his family's campsite. Authorities initially chalked this up to a mountain lion attack, but how could a mountain lion have silently dragged a 9-year-old boy a mile without leaving any blood or sign of struggle? The autopsy determined that any marks made to the child's remains were done by scavenging animals. meaning there was no damage to his body until after he passed. Hi, Amanda. Amanda, I announced to them that we're going to be doing a flesh eating Friday. I already told them. I'm so excited. And they love it. They're just as sick as we are. This is a really hard name, guys, so bear with me. Okay, for anyone who wasn't here, me and Amanda are going to be doing a flesh eating Friday. So it's going to be a live where we go through cases of where people have eaten other people's flesh, whether it was the Florida man on the bridge who had his face eaten off or Dustin Harov. We're going to go through cases where people have eaten other people's flesh. So yes, excited. Okay, so I'm gonna have a really hard time pronouncing this guy's name, but this is Prabhdeep Sran, 2013. Prabhdeep Sran was a 25-year-old Canadian Army reservist who disappeared from Australia's, I can't pronounce this, Kosciuszko National Park, located in the southeastern state of New South Wales. Sran was studying abroad in Australia in May 2013 when he decided to take a 1,700-mile road trip from the Gold Coast to Melbourne. Sran rented a van, drove to the Park Charlotte Pass in the Snowy Mountains, and no one has seen him since. The search for Sran began when the rental company discovered that the van wasn't returned. Sran hadn't told anyone what route or side hikes he was planning, and the search may have started days or even a week after he went missing, since it was the rental company that first reported the disappearance. Searchers figured out his hike plans by looking at the search history on a laptop they recovered from his van. Sran's family hired private searchers after Australian authorities called off their search only after 2 weeks. The investigators used tower data from Sran's phone and a trained dog to track his trail to a treacherous area called the Western Fall Wilderness. Just 1 day before his van was due back to his rental agency, Sran embarked on a difficult and time-consuming hike in snowy weather. Why would a trained military reservist make a choice like that? Despite a private search that went on for over a year, Sran's body has never been recovered. Okay. This is Jacob Gray, 2017. The mystery of what exactly happened to 22-year-old Jacob Gray will never likely be solved. The athletic young man rode his mountain bike into a rainstorm in Olympic National Park in Washington, April 2017, and was never seen alive again. His bike and gear were found on the side of a trail, but Gray was nowhere to be found. This kicked off a search, largely championed by his father, Randy, who actually sold his house and closed his contracting business so that he could fully devote his time to searching for his son. Randy spent months doing that, all the while theorizing about what could have happened to his child. He considered hypothermia, accidental drowning, an accident, and so on. He also worried that burgeoning mental health issues had gotten the best of him. In August of the same year, he got the phone call that a group of researchers had found Jacob's remains and supplies higher on the mountain than anyone expected. The likely cause of death was hypothermia. I know, Amanda, but it's intriguing as fuck also. And this was his supplies and stuff, guys, here. Okay. I don't know how to pronounce his name, so bear with me, guys. So Cian McLaughlin, 2021. A 27-year-old Irishman visiting Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming has been missing since June 2021. The last known sighting of Dublin native Cian McLaughlin pinpoints him heading in the direction of Taggart Lake. This is located on an 8-mile trail that is very difficult in nature. When he didn't show up to work, he was reported missing. His car was found nearby and kicked off a search that formally ended 2 weeks later. 45 helicopter searches and other high-tech tools have yet to reveal any information about his whereabouts. His family and the U.S. National Park Service have since put out a poster with a photo and details, as well as the hashtag #FindCian to keep him on top of mind for visitors to the area. The disappearance is extra puzzling, as his uncle described that particular trailhead as his favorite. Another hiker reported seeing McLaughlin without a backpack, so it appeared that he had just gone out for a walk. And then number one is actually Gabby Petito, which I don't feel like, I mean, you know, it happened in Park, you know, so I guess, but we know what happened there. But these are just like a couple of, you know, just a couple of disappearances. But what I'm really looking forward to is now in episode 2, I'm going to start to dive like solely into like 1 to 2 cases per episode. And there is this case. Ooh, I'm so excited, of someone who survived. Okay. And I think that's why it's so interesting, is that he's here to tell the story, and he does tell the story. And he was a young kid. I think he was maybe 4 or 5, I think. And he was playing on his family's property. And poof, he disappears. For days, he's gone. Search parties, they cannot find him. And then all of a sudden, poof, he is found face down in the snow right outside the family's house that they looked over and over and over for. And now he's just face down in the snow. No memory whatsoever of what happened at all. Where did you go? Where were you for days? How did you end up back here? Yeah, T. Adams, some of them do, very rarely, but some of them. Thanks, Bran. Then there's this really interesting story of this girl. this girl who was going along with her mother, I believe, for a hike. Again, they turn away for 1 second, and then the child is gone. The child was missing for days, and then the child was found. And when the child was found, the child had a very interesting story to tell. She said that when she was originally hiking with the parents, she heard her name called. And when she looked, it was her grandmother. And so naturally, that child went to the grandmother. And she explained, let me try to think if I remember this right. She explained how she held her grandmother's hand as she navigated her into this cave-like area. And when they were in this cave-like area, I'll have to go back to find the specifics, what they were talking about. But the little girl then said, I was looking at Grandma. She looked like Grandma. She spoke like Grandma. But she realized it was not her grandma. And she ran. And she was able to make it back and find, I don't know. I don't remember if she ran into like the search party or something. Now, people can chalk that up into PTSD, right? This kid went missing. Their mind is playing tricks on them. But that is something very intriguing to me, that physically it looks like her grandma. She smells like her grandma. It talks like her grandma. But she realized very quickly that that was not her grandmother. That was not. It was a little boy, Chief Law. Maybe it was a little boy. I don't remember all the specifics of it. All I remember is that it was not the grandmother. That's the part I remember most. But those are like so intriguing to me. What interests me is the little girl in the Ozarks, our lake house. Yeah, we went through that one, T. Adam. So weird. Yeah, you think Skinwalker? Okay, so one thing about a lot of these missing 411 cases is you'll always hear a lot about berries. Berries are a consistent. Grandma name was Chappie. Oh, maybe. I don't remember the specifics. You're probably right. Berries. For some reason, that's a common occurrence in these disappearances. And water, like the running water, rivers, whatever. And so we could sit here all day with the theories. Whether you want to believe in a skinwalker, whether you want to believe in a Bigfoot. I can't really explain my theory until we start to get into some of the cases, because it's the ones who are found. It's the kids who are found miles and miles away. Not fairies, Punkette, the berries. It's the kids who are found miles and miles away with bare feet, yet the bottoms of their feet are not dirty. Some of them, their clothes are on, but they're backwards. Like the pair of pants are on them, except the button is in the back and the zipper is in the back. Like they're found under these really, there's no plausible way that they even got that distance in that terrain at that age. It's an area that's been checked numerous times. It's impossible. So I think, yeah, something like that. Said her head was glowing. Maybe it was her eyes. It was something that I remember them saying, like when they looked into her eyes or something was the giveaway of them realizing it was not their grandmother. I don't know if maybe there is like a slip in the dimension, like a tear in the fabric of space-time. I don't know, because they don't hear anyone scream. Like when I say that this child is walking alongside you and then poof, they're gone, you do not hear them, you do not see them, there is no sign of a struggle. How far could they have possibly gotten in the moment you took your eyes off of them? I think maybe, I know it sounds so crazy, but like maybe they're taken into a different dimension. Maybe there's some type of portal. I don't know. But then I circle back around to the fact that they don't monitor or keep track of how many disappearances there are in national parks. When all of these people go missing, why don't they keep track of them? And then I started going down my real big conspiracy hole. And I started thinking, what if the government has an agreement with something? Because I don't know what this is. Aliens, Bigfoot, humans, who knows? But what if the government has an agreement with something that you leave everywhere else alone, right? But you have the national parks and forests, and whatever happens there, happens there. You could feed here, or, I don't know what they're doing, but it is very bizarre to me that they wouldn't keep track. Oh, hell yeah, we are, Ginger. They're going to turn the other way if it happens on those grounds. Or else, why wouldn't we be monitoring all of these people who are vanishing without a trace? Why aren't we monitoring that? Oh, that's crazy too, Sugar Beet. Yeah. Something is causing these people, going back a long ass time, because we started in the 20s when I started going through these stories, to cause these people, these children, to go vanishing, to go missing without a trace, never to be seen from again. That's true, Chief Wildfire. I don't know, but it's fucking, that's a lot of cameras you'd need. It's a huge, vast amount of land, and it's all over the world. But what is making these national parks and forests such a commonplace for these vanishings? Some of the stories are bizarre, guys. I can't wait for episode 2. If you haven't already watched the Missing 411 series, watch it. A lot of them, I don't know if all of them, but a few of them are free on YouTube. Just type in Missing 411. They're movies. They're amazing. He takes about 5 cases and puts it in one movie. Or if you have Amazon Prime, it's there. It is so interesting. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to go live, give a little overview, a little idea, a little taste of what the Missing 411 cases are. And so episode 2, I'm going to be picking out 2 cases to dive deep into, to get all the specifics. I'm going to pick out the juiciest ones, the most bizarre ones, the most peculiar ones, because that's what we're all here for. And I really look forward to it. And I hope you guys are going to enjoy it as much as I do. Yay, I'm so excited. So thank you everyone for coming. Thank you everyone for listening. I'm really looking forward, like I said, to Flesh Eating Friday. If anyone doesn't know that, the Austin Harof case, he was on Dr. Phil. This really normal student, this really normal kid, went out to eat with his dad, left the restaurant by foot, started walking through the neighborhood, stumbled upon this couple who was hanging out in their garage watching TV with the door open, went in there, attacked them viciously, drank some type of chemicals, like his entire throat and mouth was burnt to fuck, and stabbed them. Even a neighbor came to help. When police arrived, Austin was on top of the male victim and biting his face. He was eating his face. It took the way the police described it is he had superhuman strength. Superhuman strength. They were not able to get him to stop. They said he was growling like an animal. And when they finally were able to subdue him and bring him into the hospital, he had fucking flesh in his mouth. In his mouth. But he immediately had to go into a medically induced coma because the amount of fucking chemicals he drank. What made this young boy go crazy and do this? You could watch the Dr. Phil episodes of him in the hospital talking about it. You would never expect it. He was actually on YouTube as a YouTuber before the incident. And it's bizarre to me. It is so interesting that someone so normal, someone in your everyday life can just snap. What caused it? We don't fucking know. But I'm very much looking forward to Flesh Eating Fridays. So, yeah, so I might pop on for a little bit tomorrow. I do not know yet, but thanks everyone for hanging out. I love all of you guys. Spread some peace, love, and positivity. Have a great night. Bye.